Oh my god, I'm back. So, welcome to something very different. Let's just say that. Yeah, I don't know. Oh god, okay. This requires a slight bit of an intro, I guess. So, a while ago, I read the story. I read several stories. Namely, Bright Lights and Bumblebee. The raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, and whatever the other one was. Forgot what it was. White Rose Tea, I think. So I read those a while ago. They were all by a writer by the name of BrightBriar, and they actually commented on one of my videos, and with a very long paragraph, which it's awesome seeing stuff like this. And yeah, so they in some ways requested that I read this, which I wasn't originally going to read, because yeah, this is Not Guilty by BrightBriar, as you can see, and it's a Yu-Gi-Oh story, which is not really something I'd normally do. I also haven't ever read a story. Well, at least I haven't read a story for this channel on Archive of Our Own. But you know, I intended to do that in the future. But hey, we're here. We're doing this. Yeah. So I was originally not going to do this because I didn't really. I don't know. I wasn't. I don't know. I wasn't really like. I wasn't really sure about it. I don't know, because I don't really do anything with Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, and you know, it was like, well, do I really want to do something with Yu-Gi-Oh? But whatever, let's do it. I sort of like the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, so you know, I prefer watching the abridged version though. But yeah, so we're just gonna get into this. There's 10 parts of this story, I think, 10 chapters. So I don't know. We'll just get into this. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So yeah, I'm slightly scared because I've never read this before, but we'll see. Oh yeah, we should probably go to the chapter 1. Chapter 1, prologue. Disturbance strategy. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm really like, especially for a story like this, I'm really nervous. It's not maybe this wasn't a good idea. I'm gonna die here, anyways. Robberies weren't really Merrick's style, yet here he was, in a bathroom stall on the ground floor of the Museum of Egyptian Antiquities, hiding himself away as he waited for the clock to tick over to 7:10. He'd spent the day at the museum, taking in the hundreds of artifacts on display, wandering through dozens of spacious, well-lit rooms, which all smelled a little like dust and wet stone. Statues, masks, ancient hieroglyphs, he'd pored over them, getting lost in the past, a pastime that he didn't usually enjoy all that much, but today was an exception. Usually he was quite averse to staring at ancient Egyptian artifacts for long periods of time. It tended to elicit unwanted memories. But he rarely went to Cairo, and being up close to such impressive monuments and relics was undeniably awe-inspiring. The artifacts back home, further south, certainly inspired something, but awe it wasn't. As much as he'd enjoyed the museum during the day, he hadn't come just to look. There was something here that really didn't belong in this museum, or any museum for that matter. Sure, it was ancient and Egyptian, and very impressive. Specifically, it was very shiny. In that regard, it was absolutely ideal for a display in a museum such as this, but Merrick saw a problem with keeping it in a museum that had escaped the notice of the museum curators. It was far too dangerous, or more accurately, they were dangerous. He was here for the Millennium items. Merrick had mixed feelings about the Millennium items. To him, they were like old friends, but the kind of old friend that you don't like very much, and you only keep around because they're useful, and you've both been through so much shit together that they're kind of your responsibility. He'd been perfectly content to leave them buried deep in the earth where they belonged, but someone had gone and excavated them, and they'd ended up behind a glass cave. More than anything, Merrick was skeptical about how secure they were. He doubted a glass case, some alarms, and some sprinklers would be enough to keep someone from stealing them. Like himself? Okay. He was here to test that theory, but before someone else did. The museum's Sunday hours were 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. He sat cross-legged on the toilet seat with the lid down, bouncing his foot as he eyed his watch. If he'd been stealing anything else, he would have waited until much later, into the next morning, but he felt confident. Nervous, but confident. He stood up, peering through the crack in the side of the door to check no one else was in the bathroom. He opened the door and stepped out, taking a couple of seconds to fix his thick strands of blonde hair in the mirror. If he was going to steal the Millennium items, he may as well look good while doing it. Alright, obviously. He opened the bathroom door, slipping carefully down the corridor, his eyes narrowing as he focused, leaning against the wall, taking a deep breath. This was the only point where he might be vulnerable, when he was sneaking around without the Millennium items on him. Once he had them, he could use shadow magic to get away. But right now, if someone saw him, he couldn't brainwash them or make himself invisible with the Millennium Key. Alright. Mr. I'm going to use the powers of the Millennium items. Obviously. He peered out from behind the wall. The Millennium items, being pretty and shiny, were the centerpiece of a new installation hanging on the back wall of one of the main rooms. There was no doubt he'd set off one alarm or another once he got close to them, but that was fine. Once he was close, it would be too late. He took another moment or two to breathe, his heart pounding in his ears. He moved quietly into the open, throwing a quick glance over each shoulder to check that he didn't have company. Satisfied that he was alone for the time being, his gaze darted to the 7 golden artifacts at the far end of the room behind a sheet of glass. He strode purposefully towards them, activating his dual disc, which had been lying dormant on his right arm. He figured smashing the glass wouldn't be too difficult. It was designed to be non-reflective and to protect the artifacts from UV rays rather than actually shielding the objects behind it. Finally reaching the items, he drove the sharp point of the dual disc into the glass, jumping back as it shattered, his face lighting up slightly as most of the glass collapsed completely, as though it were made of porcelain. And the alarm sounded. Clenching his jaw, he grabbed the rod first, turning to face the guards streaming into the room with guns. Very physical, visible guns. Okay. His heart was racing now, panic rising, palms sweating as he held the rod out in front of him, hoping to every god he knew of that it would recognize him and do the magic thing. This had seemed like a great idea until everyone else had a gun. Put down, Merrick swallowed, tapping into the Millennium Rod's shadow magic, sending out a telepathic message to the guards. No, surrender now or I'll make you. There were a couple moments of silence. Then, at the back of the room, someone fired. Merrick swore under his breath, instinctively deflecting the bullet with the rod, which emitted a flare of shadow magic as it absorbed the blow. He took a deep breath, concentrating, attempting to turn the guards into puppets en masse. I don't know how to say that. I probably said it right, but still. Feeling his energy drain and the rod falter. Okay, so that's not an option. Shit. No one else had fired, since firing had been a really bad idea in a room full of invaluable, irreplaceable, millennia-old objects, and everyone else appeared to have gotten the memo. Merrick didn't dare move, though. The guard in front of the room, whose jacket was emblazoned with stripes and badges, raised her gun. Put your hands up. Merrick paused, then he did, appearing to comply. He held his breath. The guards didn't realize that the rod was a weapon. He wasn't being asked to put it down. Fine by me. As the guard's leader began to approach, Merrick activated the rod's powers again, controlling the leader alone, stopping her in her tracks. Her eyes going blank. Something tugged at Merrick deep in his chest. He really, really hated doing this, but he couldn't see another option. The leader turned around, facing the others. Those who were closest immediately noticed a difference, making unsure, wary expressions. Merrick used telepathy again. It was easier than yelling across the room, and probably more convincing too. I have complete control over her. Let me take these 7 items and leave peacefully, and no one will get hurt. Prove it. How can you control her? One of them took a step forward, gun raised. Merrick hesitated, pushing down his guilt as the guard's leader lifted her own gun to her head. Merrick kept her finger well away from the trigger. Take my word for it, please. I don't want to hurt anyone. Everyone took a step back. Guns were lowered, eyes averted as Merrick swept the rest of the Millennium items out of the display. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. All right, then. Then quietly he left. He relinquished his control over the leader of the guards, and one by one, as he passed each of them, they forgot everything that had happened. Underneath the star-spangled sky, a cow, a kite, and a falcon sat around a small pool in the middle of a desert. The cow's long, gently curved horns glinted in the moonlight, her large, dark brown eyes deep as oceans. She stared into the pool. Well? Well, the kite echoed. There was a silence for another few moments. Then a cool breeze swept across the pool, causing the surface of the water to ripple and change. The falcon puffed out his feathers. There were scars down one side of his face, and the marks around his eyes were as black as coal. Don't think it's meant to be said like that. He said a single word. Fuck. The kite made a quiet chirr of agreement, while the cow merely flicked her tail, saying, we probably should have expected something like this, considering everything that happened last year. The kite nodded, sighing. The rest of Enid's in shambles. Everyone suspects she was involved. What the hell's going on right now? Like, what? The cow blinked at her, her eyes alight with mischief. You speak of her with enough spite that you might as well be talking about your dear husband. The kite smiled slyly at the cow, fanning out her medium brown tail feathers, a note of humor in her voice as she spoke. I certainly have strong reservations about my husband, but I don't think she's any worse. It's the opposite, really. I just wish she'd leave the mortal world alone. She causes nothing but trouble. The cow's ears twitched. Still, she didn't instigate all of this, did he? She didn't instigate all of this, did he? Sorry. Okay. No, I heard from Father that it was all thanks to a mortal. She just latched onto the opportunity and made things a little worse, the falcon said irritably. The kite nodded. The mortal had been plotting this for a long time, too. And what of the items, the cow said. They're being excavated by some other mortals. They don't fully understand what they're capable of. The cow blinked thoughtfully. And no one else has intervened? The kite's eyes widened, seeing the cow was getting an idea. No, you mustn't, the pool bubbled. The falcon glared at the cow. What did you do? The cow smiled. Every action should have an equal opposite reaction. She acted. I neutralized what he did. Surely one of us is intervening is the best way to uphold the ma'at. Maybe. To keep everything balanced. You didn't consult the council, the kite said quietly, clearly torn. It would have taken too long, the cow replied, flicking her tail dismissively. But the Enid will get over it. The falcon didn't look so sure. None of us have actively intervened for centuries. The cow swallowed. Things change. We don't. Perhaps we should, she grumbled, her eyes shining with wisdom. After all, if I always complied with our supervisor's wishes, the world would be very different. The falcon narrowed his eyes. Still, that was hasty. I had to trust my instinct. None of us want the situation to get any more dire. We could lose this battle yet. The two avians exchanged a glance. The kite spoke. Surely not all of us working against him. The cow stood up, kicking up dust as she moved, beginning to move off, shooting the pair of raptors, an even self-assured look as she glanced back over her shoulder. Perhaps, but so far I'm the only one who's doing anything. What was the end of that chapter? Oh my god. Alright, well... Okay. So an issue... I'm having is my, I don't know. Some things are... I don't even know what's going down right now. But I need something to drink because my lips are doing some weird things right now. Other than that, I'm confused right now. I don't mean to put put the I don't mean to like put like weird silences in these videos, but yeah, that was I don't know. Things are weirdly happening right now. I mean, uh, we ordered something and then it was delivered to the neighbor's house. And it's quite a big box. So it's like, yeah, I don't know what's happening right now. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, I'm gonna try to I don't know. I'm gonna try to read at least one more chapter before I have to go and deal with stuff. Hopefully, preferably, because it's already like, oh god. Anyways, so I see. I don't know. Let's not talk about it. We have books to read. So we have chapter two, chapter one instead of prologue. Dragged down to the grave. And it doesn't give a summary. All right, whatever. Yeah, I should have read the summary for this story, and maybe I would have understood it a little more. I don't know. Oh god. Okay. Anyways, let's keep going. So, Kiru Tadako was about to die. He didn't deserve to die. He was young, 18. He was kind, easygoing, friendly, and the kind of person who always saw the best in people. He really liked puppies. He had a puppy. He was a good duelist too, and unlike most duelists, he was also a good loser. In any other situation, he would have been the hero, the guy who sacrificed himself for others and tried to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. He was, by all accounts, a paragon. He didn't deserve to die. He just ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. He ended up in a dueling stadium opposite Yugi. I don't know how to say that. Is it just Muto? Muto? I mean, I know it's Moto in the English version, but obviously this is, yeah, I don't know. They both made it to the semifinals of a regional competition, one that had been very low profile until Yugioh had entered it. The crowd of over 6,000 hyped teenagers and young adults roared, making his head reel and his heartbeat pound in his ears. But with a few deep breaths every so often, he was able to block it out. He'd never been in an arena this big before. He was only here because he was dueling Yugi. He knew most of the crowd was supporting him, but some of those cheers were for him. That's very specific. Um, his hand shook as he walked towards the center of the arena. Jesus. Adrenaline rushing through him. He did what he could to expel his pent-up energy, channeling it into fiddling with the rubber band on his wrist and adjusting his shirt as Yugi Muto strode calmly towards him, ready to do the customary rock, paper, scissors to determine who would get the first move. Yugi smiled, friendly and open. Tadako smiled back. Wordlessly, they both extended their right fists, shaking them 3 times. 2 papers. They went again. Yugi might think I'm going to do paper again to throw him off, so he'll pick scissors, so I'll pick rock. 2 rocks. Yugi grinned, amused. They went again. I'll just do scissors. It's too obvious he'll assume I'm going for something else. Tadako picked scissors, and Yugi picked rock. I'll go second, Yugi said quickly. Oh, nice shirt, by the way, he added, glancing at Tadako's graphic tee, which had the card art of Book of Moon printed on the front. Tadako swallowed, giving a small nod, his heart racing. He knew he was gay, but he hadn't realized he was this gay. Yikes. Thank you. They both walked to their respective podiums. Tadako's head was reeling. He should have been thinking about a strategy, about Yugi's strategy, and how to counter it. He should have been thinking about which cards he might draw and which combinations would be effective. But right now, one thought dominated the rest. Yugi goddamn Muto complimented my shirt, and he's so cute. Holy shit, is this even real? Fuck's sake. It didn't feel real. This was the semifinal of a regional tournament, which wouldn't normally be a big deal, aside from the fact that he was dueling Yugi Muto, who had just come back from a tournament in Germany. Yugi frickin' Muto. Still, the media wasn't just hype about Yugi. Tanaka had also been a trailblazer of sorts in his region, rapidly seeing a lot of success over the course of a few months. He'd been named as one of Industrial Illusion's 5 up-and-coming duelists of the year, so there were probably a few people who were eager to see how he'd do on a bigger stage with more pressure against a bigger foe. Bigger in everything, I assume, but stature, anyways. He was fairly sure he would lose, but he was going to make sure he lost with style. He might not beat Yugi, but he'd put up a good fight, and he would focus on the card game rather than Yugi's perfectly coiffed hair. His hair was distracting on a number of levels. Oh boy. Then the duel began, and he put his low-key crush out of his mind. He had a card game to lose. Both duelists drew 5 cards and examined their hands. Tanaka had the Agent of Creation, Venus, Solemn Wishes, Terraforming, Queen of Fate, Eternia, and Enemy Controller. Seeing something inside him melted with relief. A decent hand. Thank God. Eternia is powerful, but has some really specific summoning conditions. He needs to be tribute summoned with 3 fairy-type monsters. What if I make my first move. First to activate the spell card Terraforming, he declared, placing the spell card face on the field. With this card, I can search for a field spell in my deck, then activate the field spell. Sanctuary in the Sky. As long as this card is on the field, when a monster with the fairy attribute participates in battle, the owner of that monster doesn't take damage from that battle. Tanaka looked across the field, seeing Yugi incline his head, his eyes giving away nothing, though his demeanor was still friendly. Tanaka grinned as he continued. Then I normal summon Agent of Creation, Venus, and its effect paying 500 life points to special summon Mystical Shine Ball in defense mode. Finally, I set 2 cards face down and end my turn, he finished, setting Enemy Controller and Solemn Wishes. You can only normal summon 1 monster next turn, so I just hope he only ends up with 1 monster on the field. When he attacks, I'll change his monster to defense mode with Enemy Controller, negating the attack. Then on my next turn, I'll special summon another Mystical Shine Ball with Venus, tribute all 3 of my monsters to summon Eternia, and Solemn Wishes means that I can get the life points I'm losing by activating Venus's effect. My turn. Yugi drew a card. Actually, wouldn't say it like that. That sounds very sinister. My turn. Yugi drew a card, taking a moment to look at it, smiling softly as the card roared, and then launching into his main phase. I summon Magical Exemplar in attack mode. Each time a spell card is activated, she gains 2 spell counters. I also set 2 cards face down on the field. Magical Exemplar, attack Venus, not so fast, Tadako interrupted. I activate Enemy Controller, swapping Magical Exemplar to face-up defense position. Yugi grinned. Nice try, but I activate both of my face-down cards. Tadako swallowed. Oh no. First activate Appropriate, a continuous trap card. As long as Appropriate is on the field, for every card that you draw outside of your draw phase, I also draw 2 cards. Second, I activate Dark Bribe. I can activate this card when you activate a spell or trap. You draw 1 card. Tadako did, drawing Condemned Maiden. Good, her defense stat is nice and high. I can use her to stall if I need to. And I negate your trap. But because of Appropriate, I also draw 2 cards, Yugi said, adding 2 more cards to his hand. With Enemy Controller negated, Venus is destroyed. Tanaka narrowed his eyes as his monster... Oh, my nose! Tanaka narrowed his eyes as his monster evaporated from the field, swallowing. He couldn't use her effect to get any more Mystical Shine Balls on the field and summon Eternia. Still, I don't lose any life points due to the effect of Sanctuary in the Sky. Yugi inclined his head. True. I end my turn. Wait! Before your end phase is complete, I activate a continuous trap. Solemn Wishes. Every time I draw a card, I gain 500 life points. Now that's done, I end my turn, or it's my turn, I draw. He turned his new card over to see what it was, his eyes flicking to his life points. 8,500. 500 more than what he and Yugi both started at. Is that really what he has? Whatever. Solemn Wish is activated, and the new card was Agent of Force Mars. He smiled, and he reached for Condemned Maiden, the card he had drawn during Yugi's turn. I set a monster face down, then end my turn. Alright, I draw. I summon. God damn it. I summon Silent Magician, level 4, in attack mode, and have her attack Mystical Shine Ball. Tadako gritted his teeth. Silent Magician was one of Yugi's signature cards. He'd have to get her off the field as soon as possible. Yugi continued. Then Magical Exemplar attacks your face down card. Tadako smiled. Nice try, but the card you attacked was Condemned Maiden, who has 2,000 defense points. She remains face up on the field and you lose 300 life points. Yugi nodded, flinching as life points fell. A flicker of concern, as well as something else that Tadako couldn't quite place, passed over his features, but it disappeared as soon as Tadako noticed. Alright, I end my turn. Tadako paused, then drew, adding Negate attack to his hand. His life points now at 9,000 thanks to Solemn Wishes. After examining his hand, he glanced over at the field to see Silent Magician level 4 had gained 500 attack. Huh? Yugi smiled. Every time you draw a card, Silent Magician level 4 gains a spell counter, and each spell counter gives her an additional 500 attack. When she gains 5 spell counters, I can level her up. Taco swallowed. Okay, I set a card face down in my turn, he said, setting negate attack. My turn. I draw. Yugi took a few moments to examine the field, then look at his own hand before plowing on. Activate Pot of Duality, allowing me to look at the top 3 cards of my deck, add one of them to my hand, and put the other back in any order. Other 2 back in any order. He did this and then continued. A normal Summoner Monk, who is changed to defense position thanks to its effect. I then activate Summoner Monk's effect, discarding a spell card from my hand and special summoning Sacred Crane from my deck. Thanks to Sacred Crane's effect, I draw 1 more card. He looked at his card, then considered the field. Neither of his monsters had attack stats enough to take down the Condemned Maiden. With 2,000 defense points, recognizing this, he ended his turn. Tadako took a deep breath. God, fucking stupid. Tadako took a deep breath. I draw, he declared, adding Cestus of Dalga to his hand, gaining another 500 life points, though Silent Magician level 4 stats rose to 2 whatever at the same time. The less experienced duelist's eyes widened as he examined his hand, realizing how good his cards were. Agent of Force Mars and the Cestus of Dalga. If Mars, whose attack and defense points were equal to the difference between his life points and Yugi's, was equipped with the spell card Cestus of Dalga, which could only be equipped to fairy monsters, and gave the equipped monster 500 more attack points, as well as granting the monster controller's life points equal to the damage of the equipped... What? What? My brain just died there. What happened? Okay. If Mars, whose attack and defense points were equal to the difference between his life points and Yugi's, was equipped with the spell card Cestus of Dalga, which could only be equipped to fairy monsters, and gave the equipped monster 500 more attack points, as well as granting the monster's controller life points equal to the damage the equipped monster inflicted, then every time he gained life points through Cestus of Dalga's effect, Mars' attack points would rise even further, combined with Solemn Wishes and Sanctuary in the Sky, that could be absolutely devastating. Wow. Not hesitating any longer, he plowed into his main phase. I summoned the Agent of Force, Mars, whose attack points are based on how much higher my life points are compared to yours. Then I equipped Mars with a spell card Cestus of Dalga, adding an additional 500 points to his attack. bringing it to 2,300. Oh yeah, okay, I get it. And then Mars attacks Silent Magician, level 4. He gritted his teeth as his monster was destroyed, losing 300 life points. Taco grinned. Taco grinned as a cloud of virtual dust kicked up around them, hearing the distinctive beeping noise signaling Yui's life points dropping, and his own rising thanks to cesses of Dauga's effect. As the dust cleared, Yugi stared at Mars, whose attack and defense had risen. 2,920. I don't want to read that. What the? Taco can help. Be a little smug. You lost 300 life points thanks to cesses of Dauga. I gained 300 life points. Then, consequently, with another 800 life points separating your life points from mine, Mars' attack rose by 800 points. Jesus. You hear gasps and murmurs from the crowd. No way! Its attack is nearly as high as Blue Eye's White Dragon. Is Yui going to lose? Taku took a deep breath, looking around, taking the crowd's excitement, realizing he was grinning madly. He felt a thrill of excitement surge through his chest. Answer to that, Yugi. With that, I end my turn. Fucking hell. Yugi eyed Mars, then smiled. Bring it on, Kyoru-kun, I draw. Tanaka felt color rush to his cheeks. Holy shit, the King of Games just called me Kyoru-kun. How do I even... I don't know if I can say things fast. It might have been even... I don't know. Whatever. Activate Magical Exemplar's effect. See, she's been accumulating spell counters for a while now, meaning I can remove 4 spell counters and special summon a spellcaster type monster from my graveyard, whose level is equal to the number of spell counters I removed. I special summon Silent Magician, level 4. Then I activate the spell card I just drew, level up. His eyes widen. Oh, wait. Shit, he's going to use that on Silent Magician, isn't... Well, no fucking shit. Jesus Christ. Do we need to explain, or is the card's name self-explanatory? Taco swallowed. I think I've got it. What? That's the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to explain the cards without, like, obviously people know what most of these cards are. They explain Pot of Greed every single other episode. Whatever. Yugi smiled. Alright, then I send Silent Magician level 4 from the field to graveyard and special summon Silent Magician level 8. Taco realized his heart was pounding, panic clouding his judgment. He glanced back at his side of the field, taking a deep breath, realizing everything was fine. He summoned a gate attack, and Mars will gain 500 attack on my next phase. Then I can attack Sacred Crane, which will make the difference between our life points even larger. You continued. Then I set 2 cards face down and equipped the spell Mage Power. A monster equipped with Mage Power gains 500 attack for every trap or spell card the user controls, regardless of whether it's face up or set. I control 4 spell or trap cards, meaning the equipped monster gains 2,000 attack points. Fucking hell. No, that means I equip Mage Power to Silent Magician, level 8. Saku's eyes widened as the mage loomed over Mars. I still negate attack. This is fine. This is fine. Now, Silent Magician, attack Mars. Wait, I activate my trap card. Negate attack, which means that Tanaka trailed off, smiling sheepishly. No, probably pretty self-explanatory. Yugi smiled, nodding, eyeing Mars. His attack points were higher than either of his other monsters. Alright, I end my turn. Tanaka narrowed his eyes. My turn. I draw. He balled his fists into his hands to stop them from shaking. Taking another deep breath. You can do this, Tadako. Stay calm. He drew, gained 500 life points, bringing his total to 10,300. Checked that Mars' attack and defense had also risen by 500 points, then looked at his new card, Agent of Mystery, Earth. Queen of Fate Eternity was still in his hand, but he had no way to summon it. That's okay, I can work with this. I normal summon the Agent of Mystery, Earth. While the Sanctuary in the sky is on the field, I can add the monster card Master Hyperion from my deck to my hand. Master Hyperion was a good card and easy to summon with Venus in his graveyard. He had Yugi's monsters. I just need to inflict some damage. Mars, attack Sacred Crane. He revealed one of his face down cards. Nice try, but I activate Waboku. This turn, I take no damage from your monsters, and my monsters cannot be destroyed. Taco bit his lip. Shit, if I don't get some damage in, Silent Magician will destroy Mars next turn. The trap card Waboku was sent to the graveyard, and Silent Magician level 8's attack fell to 5,000, which was good, but hardly solved his problem. Taco anxiously examined the field and his hand. He had no set cards, only Solemn Wishes, and the field spell Sanctuary in the Sky, which meant that as long as he controlled Fairy-type monsters, he wouldn't take any damage from battles involving them. That didn't stop them from being destroyed. He gritted his teeth. There was nothing he could do. I end my turn. I draw. As Yugi looked at his new card, a soft fawn smile appeared on his face. Then he became focused again, going on with his turn. Activate one of my face down cards, Dark World Dealings. Each of us draws one card and then discard one, but thanks to Appropriate, I draw an additional 2. Jesus. Tadako nodded, drawing a card, his life points rising to 10,800 and Mars attack and defense rising to 3,900. 3,400 as well. He looked at his new card, Spirit of the Breeze. That'll be helpful. He thought she's a good effect. He discarded Eternia. With no way to summon her, she wasn't going to be very useful. You continued, then activate Magical Exemplar's effect again, removing 8 spell counters from her, then summoning another Silent Magician level 8 from the graveyard. What? Shit, that must have been the card he just discarded. And finally, I attribute Sacred Crane and Magical Exemplar in order to summon Dark Magician. A few months earlier, part 1 or something. What is happening? I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to ignore it. Tadaku couldn't have possibly prepared himself for the roar of the crowd as Dark Magician materialized on the field. He almost physically staggered, losing his balance slightly as it deafened him, but Yugi didn't seem at all put off. He must have used it. He must have been used to it by now. As he adjusted to the increased volume, it felt exhilarating. His heart rate increased, and he felt even more energetic and jittery than he had when the duel began. He grinned. So this is what a first-class duel is really like. I also set 2 more cards face down, meaning I have 4 spell or trap cards in my control again. Moving on to my battle phase. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. I'm fucked, he thought, grimacing. Sun Magician level 8, equipped with Mage Power, and attack Mars. Taco bit his tongue, helpless as his monsters were destroyed. Yugi's other Silent Magician destroyed Earth, and Dark Magician destroyed Condemned Maiden. Taco's side of the field is empty, except for Sanctuary in the Sky and Solemn Wishes. At least Yugi hasn't used D-Spell, or Mystical Space Typhoon, or anything. I draw, Tadako said, looking at his hand. He now had Master Hyperion, Spirit of the Breeze, and Agent of Miracles, Jupiter. His face lit up. He could work with this. That was the thing about this deck. He liked it because it was versatile. I normal summon Agent of Miracles, Jupiter, and by banishing the Agent of Creation, Venus, from the graveyard, I can also special summon Master Hyperion, both of whom have kick-ass effects, he added privately to himself. Activate Master Hyperion's effect. Once per turn, I can manage 1 light fairy-type monster from my graveyard, then target 1 card on the field, destroying that target. Banishing Mystical Shine Ball, I have Silent Magician level 8, equipped with Mage Power. Yugi's eyes widened with legitimate shock and concern, and the crowd roared. Tanako felt a little bad, but also not really. And that's not all. As long as Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, I can activate the effect twice per turn. I banish Agent of Force Mars from my graveyard and destroy your other Silent Magician. Adrenaline rushed through him as the 2 holograms disintegrated. Holy shit. I'm actually winning against the King of Games, for the moment anyway, but wow. Then I activate Jupiter's effect. Once per turn, I can remove from play 1 agent monster in my graveyard and select 1 face-up light fairy-type monster I control, giving it an additional 800 attack points until the end phase. I remove the Agent of Mystery, Earth, from play and increase Master Hyperion's attack points by 800. Now, Master Hyperion, attack Dark Magician. Yugi, oh my goodness. Yugi staggered as Dark Magician was controlled. Oh, Jesus. Yugi staggered as Dark Magician was destroyed, but Tadako continued. Now Jupiter, attack Yugi's life points directly. Yugi stumbled as he absorbed the attack, gritting his teeth. As his life points dropped, he took a couple of seconds to recover, looking at Tadako, his eyes confused, uncertain, almost carrying a hint of betrayal. Tadako blinked, unsure of what he'd done. Yugi stood up slowly, everything about his posture different. He was suddenly wary, looking over his shoulder, as though he were looking for an out. The sudden shift in mood made the hair on Tadako's neck rise slightly, chilling him to the bone. Something had happened when Yugi had taken damage, but Tadako didn't know what. But then Yugi's fearful expression melted away. Tadako frowned. I guess I just imagined it? He looked at his life points, which now sat at 4,600, and then took a deep breath. I draw. Tadako eyed him carefully. No, he hadn't been imagining it. Everything about him was more serious, more grave, as though he was suddenly becoming aware a new set of stakes. Each movement was more careful, more rigid. Tadako swallowed hard. This wasn't right. Something wasn't right. Yugi continued with his turn. I summoned Silent Paladin in attack mode. When this card is normal summon, I can add one Silent Magician level 4 to my hand. There was a silence for a few moments. Yugi and Tadako eyed each other, suddenly more serious. Tadako didn't know why, but Yugi seemed as if he knew too much. Yugi stared at Tadako, and Tadako wasn't sure whether it was an apology or an accusation. Yugi closed his eyes, taking one more deep breath. He murmured quietly, I'm sure it was nothing. Tadako didn't know who Yugi was trying to reassure. He went on. Then I activate one of my set cards, Swords of Revealing Light, meaning your monsters can attack for 3 turns, and then end my turn. Tadako gazed searchingly at Yugi, whose expression was now unreadable. Swords of Revealing Light was incredibly inconvenient, but it paled in significance compared to whatever had just happened with Yugi. Focus on the duel. It probably was nothing. Yugi looks like he knows what's going on, and he's still dueling. I should too. I trust him. He swallowed, taking a deep breath. I draw. He added another card to his hand, the Agent of Wisdom, Mercury. He continued on with his move. His eyes brightened. With an agent card now in his hand, he could activate Jupiter's other effect, bringing back Mars. He hesitated for a moment. Something had happened. Then continued as though everything was normal. Probably wasn't the smartest idea. But nothing happened, so it's fine, he told himself, pushing back his doubt. I summon Spirit of the Breeze. As long as this card remains in face-up attack position on my side of the field, I increase my life points by 1,000 points during each of my standby phases. Next, I activate Hyperion's effect, banishing Queen of Fate Eternia from my graveyard and destroying Silent Paladin. Then, as Sanctuary in the Sky is still in the field, I can activate Jupiter's second effect. I can discard an agent monster from my hand and special summon one of my banished monsters. Yugi's expression went from oh boy to oh fuck. I discard the Agent of Wisdom, Mercury, and resurrect one of my monsters I've removed from play. Return the Agent of Force, Mars. Level 3, attack 7,200, defense 7,200. The crowd went insane, roaring into Tadako's ears. Yugi stared at the 3-star monster, legitimate fear on his face. Still I can't attack this turn, Tadako continued thanks to Swords of Revealing Light. With Solemn Wishes and Spirit of the Breeze both on my field, I continue to gain life points and Mars' attack will continue to increase. So I end my turn. Yugi gritted his teeth, new determination on his face. I draw, then summon Silent Magician level 4. Then I tribute summon Silent Magician level 4 to summon special summon Silent Magician, which can only be summoned by tributing another spellcaster type monster. She has a variety of different effects, but I only intend to use one. Silent Magician, attack Jupiter. What? Why? And I would look past over Yugi's features as he took 300 points of damage, meaning Mars' attack and defense rose to 7,500. But he smiled once the damage calculation was done, because when Silent Magician is sent to the graveyard, I can special summon one Silent Magician level 8 from my hand or deck. Tadako's eyes widened with shock as then he remembered he had a monster 7,500 attack. He was fine. Everything was fine. Calm down. Silent Magician level 8, destroy Master Hyperion. Tadako's shoulders slumped as his monster was sent to the graveyard. Guess I can't abuse his effect anymore. Don't take any damage because of Sanctuary in the sky. Yugi nodded. True, I set a card face down, then in my turn. Tadako nodded and drew, gaining 500 life points and a new card, Hanewata. If any of Yugi's monsters dealt him any effect damage, he could discard Hanewata from his hand and make that 0. Nice. The duel then moved into the standby phase, where Tanako's life points rose another 1,000 points thanks to Spirit of the Breeze effect. All up, his life points sat at 13,300, and Mars' attack and defense had reached 9,000. Looking at his cards, there wasn't a lot he could do. Hanewata was more useful on his hand than on his field, and he couldn't attack. I don't have any moves to make. I end my turn. So it was Revealing Light's second turn was over. Yugi nodded. I draw, then set a card face down. I saw a magician attack Jupiter. Jupiter disintegrated, and Jocko drew without taking any damage, thanks to Sanctuary in the sky. Look at his new card, Burial from a Different Dimension. Would have been good if Jupiter or Hyperion were still on the field. Never mind. He then looked over at Mars. 10,500 attack and apparently 105,000 defense. A little bit of a typo there. Too many zeros. A deafening roar went up from the crowd. It's over. I can't say that. I'm not gonna do it. Tadako smiled, then laughed. Yugi looked slightly ill. Tadako nodded to him. I still have no moves to make. I end my turn. As his end phase finished, Swords of Revealing Light disappeared from the field. He could attack on his next turn. Okay. Yugi drew, then smiled. And Number summoned Kuribo in face-up attack position. Tadako grinned. Of course Yugi summoned Kuribo in face-up attack position. And of course Kuribo got the loudest cheer yet, almost deafening him. Now Kuribo attacked Spirit of the Breeze. His monster disappeared from the field. At this point, it didn't matter. Mars had 10,500 attack points. Tadako had 14,800 life points. Yugi had only 4,300 life points. And Tadako was this close to being the king of games. Yugi ended his turn and Tadako drew without hesitation. It's my turn. I draw. Splendid Venus, as well as another 500 life points and 500 attack points to Mars. Splendid Venus was a really nice card, but he couldn't summon right now. All this didn't really matter, though. He smiled and moved straight to his battle phase. It's over, Yugi. Mars. Attack Kuribo. No, I activate Magic Cylinder. Then things started to go wrong. I'm going to ignore this because I don't understand what's going on here. Tanako's life points dropped by 11,000 points all at once. Yugi's trap card effectively redirected the attack onto him. His vision darkened around the edges, and he staggered backwards, losing his footing, everything spinning, feeling nauseous. He felt as though his life was literally being drained out of him, ripped from him with every beep of his dual disc. Suddenly he realized the ground was rushing towards him, and he outstretched his hands to catch himself, sweat beading on his forehead, feeling as though he was being cast into a dark void. Then there was a voice, a light. Hiro, Kyo, Tadako, can you hear me? He looked up, feeling as though he might throw up at any moment. Yugi was crouched in front of him. At least Tadako was pretty sure he was crouching, since everything was swaying a lot. Gazing at him anxiously, his striking red eyes round with concern. Tadako, we can stop the duel. I'll tell him to stop. No, he said weakly, chest heaving. Tadako. Tadako took a deep breath, steadying himself, then he placed his hand on Yugi's shoulder, not really thinking, using the king of games to prop himself up, back on his feet. I want to see this through. Yugi stood up and placed a hand on his shoulder. No, Kyo, you don't have to. He broke off, coughing. No, I want to. Listen to me. Something's wrong with this duel. You don't know what you're... I end my turn, he declared, taking a couple steps back. He was feeling better with every passing second, his head clearing. I'm fine. It's nothing. That was nothing. Maybe it's because you didn't have breakfast this morning, or maybe it's because of this fancy stadium, some kind of extension of the holograms. He knew he was making excuses, but he wasn't going to surrender. He didn't want Yugi to surrender either. He wanted to duel the King of Games, and he wanted to finish it. Oh, God. Yugi stood opposite him, his gaze unreadable. He looked conflicted, scared, confused. All of this was... I didn't read the sentence before it. Anyways, he looked at his life points, 4,300. They were the same as Yugi's, meaning Mars's stats were 3,000. Yugi stood opposite, or 0. I can't read. Yugi stood opposite him, his gaze unreadable. He looked conflicted, scared, confused. All this he mostly masked, but it was there, just underneath the surface. He swallowed hard, looking away at his cards. I draw. Yugi looked at his new card for a very long time. Activate the card that I just drew. Monster Reborn. His eyes shone with emotion, shock, and resolve. His voice was quiet, rapidly increasing in volume and intensity as he continued. And I special summon a monster from my graveyard. Dark Magician. Taco's heart skipped a beat as Dark Magician materialized for a second time. He could faintly hear the crowd cheering again, but it sounded muted, as though he was underwater. All he could hear properly was Yugi, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Karibo, attack Mars! Mars disappeared from the field. Rip, Tadako thought warily, still feeling as though he might throw up. Yugi looked at Tadako for a long time before continuing. Now, Dark Magician, attack his life points directly! His voice was strong and firm, but his eyes were bright with worry. Tadako grunted, losing his footing as he absorbed the impact, his vision tunneling again, nausea returning. His life points fell to 1,800. He remained bent over for a few moments, his hand resting on his knees, everything turning, the stadium and his stomach. After a few moments, the feeling receded more quickly than it had the first time, and he stood back up, giving Yugi a weak thumbs up. Look, Yugi returned with one of pure anguish. He said quietly, his voice thick with emotion, I'm sorry. I'll fix this, I promise. Wait, what? Yugi took a deep breath. Sun Magician level 8. Attack his light points directly. Burning white light filled his vision as Yugi's monster charged her attack. A blazing white ball rushed towards them, and instinctively he lifted his arm in front of his face, trying to block the blow with his dual disc, but no avail. The attack slammed into him. He stumbled back, adrenaline rushing through his veins, heart thudding hard in his chest. He lost his balance, falling, and then suddenly he felt incredibly cold, as though his life was literally being drained from his veins. Fear consumed him, his ears ringing, chills racking his body, and he clutched at his chest, not for his heart, but for his soul. No, why? The dark tunnel returned, drawing his entire being, and he became limp, blacking out permanently. I don't know what's happening. Oh my god, this chapter is still going on. Kira-san? Young girl, around 15, looked up as a dark figure entered the room. Her sleek black hair shone in the cold blue light, reaching past the small of her back. She looked as broken as she felt. No, her voice was dull, hollow. Kuru? No, she screeched, standing up, glaring at the other figure. I know what you're going to tell me, and I don't want to hear it. She broke off, collapsing into her chair. Her breath coming in short, rough gasps, her vision blurring. I don't want to hear you say it, Kyo. I know, she repeated, almost angrily, tears streaming down her cheeks. You came in here looking all solemn and tense. You don't want to tell me, and I don't want to hear it. We both win. There was a long pause, too long. The other figure nodded. Okay, I'll leave you alone too. Don't say it. Don't say grieve. The door closed with a dull kind of finality. Akira shattered into 1,000 pieces. Oh, shit. Apparently there was some mistakes. And Yugi probably wouldn't have won. Oh, God. Whatever. So, I have... Alright. Well, I have stuff I have to do. Episode has been going on for probably an hour at this point, and I'm dying here. So, next time we will come back with chapter 3-ish, technically chapter 2, of Not Guilty by BrightBriar. I don't know if we'll actually be able to do 2 chapters per episode. This might be a very long series, but yeah, I'm still gonna read it because it's good so far. I'll tell you that much. I mean, there are some grammar errors, and obviously there were some mistakes, but whatever. It's good. It's good. I tell you that it's good. All right. Next time we'll come back with probably not this because being that it's gonna be quite long, I need to split it up with something else. But yeah, so stick around because this is going to be fully read. Yeah, just yeah.